Hey Planet Earth, Untamed Druid again, coming at you live with some more Untamed takes. Let's get it going. Now this video specifically is going to be about the Seven, or what I like to call the False King. So, Seven, there's three different permutations to it. There's the Six and the One, which is simply the self having awareness, the intuition of the self, the awareness that an individual has. The Six and the One, that's a representative of Seven. Man as the decider, Five and the Two. So man is able to decide what is good and bad, simply Five and Two. And then 3 and 4 is just simply awareness of the outside world. You look around you, you know how things relate to each other, you know how to use things that exist in the world, you know how to gain value by leveraging things, and you know what proper trades to make. You understand what the value of one piece of corn is versus the value of a banana, and how you can, basically sevens are simply, I'm going to refer to sevens as a type of people, but also it's really just a mindset. So it's a type of people that fit into the mindset. So seven really is the abode of the achievers of the real world. So what do I mean by abode? I just mean where it's the mindset of these people. What do I mean by the abode of achievers? So why I call Seven the False King is that you can seemingly have it all figured out. You can be on top of the world if you're achieving things in this world, because that's what it means to be on top of the world. You're the king, you're the boss, you're the chief. You're making all of the advancements that the world allows you to make and that the world is encouraging you to make. Basically, you're a very outwardly directed person who is still capable. It's not that you're not your own self, and it's not that you are unable. It's not false king in such a way of really with any negativity. It's more emphasizing the fact that from this mindset you can believe that you have achieved all that you can achieve. But that's not really, it's not really the case. Essentially, the seven is a false perfection of man, people. I say man because it's just a reference term. It's all people, definitely, but seven represents the perfection of people falsely, because it represents the perfection of people as far as social paradigms go, and it's basically the perfection of a person in relation to larger society, basically. So this is generally as far as a materialist is going to get. Basically, you don't need to know numerology to become a seven, and basically a seven is anyone that you see that's just busy in the outside world and takes pride in that, and that's where they get their validation, that's where they get their self-worth, because they're constantly doing things in the outside world, whether it's working or whether it's shopping or anything like that. These people gain, instead of having an inner source of motivation, basically they're entirely motivated and contain themselves to basically perform within the constrictures of society, which is not necessarily negative, but they haven't pushed past that requirement to behave that way. So because that's how you're supposed to behave, that's how they behave, and thus they have reached success. And it's not that these people aren't successful and really need to change what they're doing, but it's more to acknowledge that there's more in the world, and the sense of that longing, that burning, the desire, and the lack of lasting joy really comes from you guiding yourself and not being directed by the crowd. So, 7 is basically the perfect person in communism. Basically, that's what 7 represents. They're a hard worker, and they do what everyone expects them to do, and they live for everybody else, and they give freely, and there's no real limits to their goodness or badness, but their success is not their own success. Their success is the success that other people want them to have, and they limit themselves to experiencing that success, which you can be a lot worse things than a false king. So it's not that 7s are negative at all. These are basically most successful people would generally be seen as a 7. Some moderately successful people could be seen as like a 3 or a 4. Those generally represent modern workers, people stuck in the the world paradigm, or people that are good at manipulating the elements. 3s or 4s. Similar situation, but the reality of a false king is only false in that they assume that other people actually care about them. Their self-valuing comes from the fact that other people value them, which is an assumption. So it's just a basic logic problem leads to disproving this basic assumption that is at the base of their entire how they interact with the world. So if you go to the basis of this, if you just fit in and do what you're supposed to, everything will be fine. At the base of that, it's that you assume that people actually care about you when you do that, and that they're not just it's basically a lack of awareness of, if you don't do what society's dictating to do, they will just burn you, hang you, crucify you, do really whatever. And there's a lack of awareness of that element of slavery. So this is basically the slave king. This is the person that's fully encapsulated within society, but believes they're on top of society because they happen to be doing well or doing okay, or but they're not doing what they believe. They're not really standing up for their own values. They're promulgating the values of the greater society, and really not thinking anything for themselves, or not admitting what they think. So yeah, that's your false king. Now, something else, lots of people, like with Aleister Crowley, he's got the book 777. I think he's got a 666 book, but he's also got a book called 777, The Beast. Or maybe that's 666. But yeah, there's that element at play where 7, even within my own family, 7 was a huge number. That was always our lucky number. But the role that 7 plays in society is that you can tell, any basic knowledge of numerology. You don't have to know numerology, but it helps. Any knowledge of numerology, once you see people promoting 7 as if it's, the God number, it really points out that it really points out what people mean by our implied morality. So we society says there's these things called morals, and we're not going to really talk to you about them much. We're just going to tell you what they are, and you have to live by them, and that's it. And that's kind of what society is. And I mean, there's religion and things that go into morals more. You can study them; it's a whole study. But basically, the idea of society telling you, the individual, that you need to meet certain expectations or you're a bad person. Now, can you like make connections with that? Like you're a bad person if you kill? Yes, especially unwarrantedly. You're not protecting yourself. You're just viciously just attacking other people. Yeah, you're not, you're not a good person necessarily because you took rights from some other person. But the idea of God as a 7 really represents to me now, this represents, it's a weird amount of acknowledging numerology. So you're aware that 7 isn't the God number, but just insisting that it is, like personifies insisting that people be productive. Why? Because you need them to be. Because that fits your paradigm. People have to be productive. If you're not a productive person, there's something wrong with you. And that's the assumption. There's no any kind of status quo challenge from these people or other people, you don't want to say lesser people, but lower people that are less intuitive or sensitive, different words. Assuming that God just is the creator of the status quo, and God, only participates in the status quo. It's like, well, to be alive in the world and to see the different things that happen, we kind of implicitly understand that God doesn't participate with the status quo. God specifically shakes up the status quo. So, it's like an awareness of numerology. It's awareness of this greater truth, and then insisting that, this is the part of the perversion of it, and why I call it the false king. I believe that there's kind of an insistence that man is supposed to take the place of God, and that there's some kind of disconnect where that's possible, where man can take the place of God instead of man only existing because of the presence of God. So it's really it's like a little tweak that if you're not really thinking about, and if you don't think it through, there's no real difference, it sounds like. But the difference is that God, or the truly self-expressing individual, which is as close as we can get to happiness, like, let me tell you, basically the truly happy person is expressing themselves fully all the time, regardless of what other people are saying. And what I'm saying is these 7s, these false kings, are not expressing themselves. They don't even... Why it's bad to be a 7 and stuck at a 7 is you might not even have awareness that you are participating in this way. So you might not even know that you don't have an opinion about something. You might not know that you are just doing what everyone is telling you to do. You might not ever question that. You might not have any awareness that you can question that or think that that's weird. You'll kind of be stuck in this mode of, well, that's what everybody told me to do, so I did it, and that's about as far as I think about it. And it's kind of a scary place to be, because it's hard to maintain positivity, when you kind of steal from yourself the ability to have your own opinions or think your own thoughts and come up with your own conclusions, even if it's just, you insisting, that you're going to come up with your own conclusion. You agree with every single other person. It's like being able to come up with your own conclusions is something that 7 strictly denies. So 7 really focuses on the perfect person that just does what they're told, and they're basically, again, the perfect slave. The epitome of somebody who's capable but doesn't want to be in charge. So yeah, to me, sevens are pretty sad at this point. I used to really like 7. I used to work a lot with 7, but yeah, seven's kind of, yeah, I got it written down here. 777 is the epitome of man not willing to self-analyze. So, this is just a, world man, basically a woman's man, going to be able to achieve, or, not to mix with the gender issues, but, 777 basically represents the archetype of that, of the everyman from the 50s that would just do everything that the woman wanted, and the woman was just so happy and grateful for a perfect husband that just did all of this stuff and never, tried to have any influence in the house, never tried to do, he allowed the woman to have her household, control over the household, and the man controlled the work and the money and the and it's like, to me, that's the 777 man. So like a 50s stereotype is the 777. So yeah, that's, to me, the easiest way to get a mental picture of it. So that's really all I got for this one. A little bit shorter, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna be making a couple more here. I'm gonna try to get up to video 9 today, so it's gonna be a couple rapid uploads. If you like the video, go ahead and subscribe and hit that like button and the notification bell. And besides that, have a good one. Peace.